the Julius Riske residence, where Grandpa Martin was born and where Steve and Henry grew up. This is where Christina Marie's grandpa lived. When this house was first built by Julius, it had a big wraparound porch on it. Now they added that lean-to. The river's right over there. What a playground.
I also stayed in this home when I went to high school.
Julius's wife Rosalie lived here until she died with Auntie Effie after moving off the family farm that Martin started farming. Effie's done a nice job keeping this house up. Again, right by the river. Here's how the leisure class lives in Minto. Go to the Minto Cafe after church in Effie's car. Look, this is how the leisure class lives. Over there. The card shark. The card shark.
Look nice. Sure, smile. You're in camera.
There, now there's a smart one there. She moved from California to Minto.
Yeah.
See, that's the smart one.
She moved from California to
Where were you living in California?
In Long Beach.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And I could be there now. I could spend my time in California for the winter because one of my daughters is out.
But she loves the snow.
But I like it here. I just love it.
Yeah, let's talk about Rosalie for a minute. Rosalie Riske. Now her maiden name was Stibor, yes.
Yeah, Rosalia Stibor. But she was called Rosa on the old papers. There, even on their wedding certificates, it's R-O-S-A. Did you see? You got one of them certificates.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's R-O-S-A. Okay, at that time they didn't use the alphabet T. I don't know whether they didn't have the T in the alphabet at that time, but it was K. S-K-I-B-O-R.
Oh.
And then when they came to Winona or settled here, then it went for S-T-I-B-O-R. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Huh.
Well, anyway, my mother came from a family of 5. She had 2 sisters and 3 brothers. But the only ones in Mama's family was her brother John, and he lived in Elkader, Iowa. And he was the closest with my mother, you know, with his sister. I know always during the holiday season we would get half of a gunny sack full of black walnuts from his tree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When was that? When was the last time you got some black walnuts from him?
many years. See, Mama died in 1950, and this was maybe about 20 years before that yet or so.
Oh boy.
And then Uncle John died, and his wife died first, and then Uncle John died. Then he had two Ruth Stibor and Ruth and what was the other boy? Bob, and they used to come. They used to come here in the summertime in a Ford car to visit us. But other than that, Mother had a sister by the name of Gertrude, and she was married with a Hayek, H-Y-A-K, and they lived in Milwaukee, Oregon. I mean Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But I don't know, they never seemed to people didn't correspond before. There were no telephones, and you know, everybody just kind of grew away from each other.
Yeah.
So we had 7 cousins in Milwaukee, And it wasn't so far from here, but we didn't know each other, you know.
Now, Julius met Rosa where?
In Winona. My
Winona,
mama
Minnesota.
came from Czechoslovakia. It was early in the spring of the year, and she was not quite 7 years old. And it took 17 days for them to come to land in Winona.
Well, 17 days from where?
From Czechoslovakia.
Wow.
By boat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she got typhoid fever.
Your mom did?
Yeah, it was a prevalent disease at that time. And they thought that she died. They thought that she quit breathing. So they rolled her up in a blanket and they were going to bury her at sea.
Oof.
And when they were going to do this, and then she started to breathe again, she came back to life like.
Hmm.
And then look at the big family she had. And anyway,
Yeah, she had a total of 16 children. Is that
yeah,
correct?
15. I'm the tail end of 15.
You're the tail end.
Three
of...
died. Two little boys. The first baby died, Julius, and then was Frank, John, Joe. Then between Frank and Joe was a baby boy died. His name was Robert. And then I had a sister 2 years older than me, Sophie, and she died with whooping cough. She died when my sister Phila was rocking her on the rocking chair.
Hmm.
See, before we didn't have any shots for diseases like children have now.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody got sick, they got sick. If they got well, okay. Used to pull out that old goose oil and turpentine and rub your chest or head for colds, and that was about the remedy anybody had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never see a doctor.
No, very, very
Have your children at home and
very seldom, no.
have the funerals
So
at home?
then Mama worked in a hotel. First when they came to Winona, she was 14 years old and she worked for a rich Jewish family. And that's where she learned how to make noodles and Jewish fancies, you know.
Uh-huh.
Then when she was 17, she married with Papa, and how they met with Papa because Papa's family lived in Wisconsin. Now, Mama's family lived in Winona, but these lived in, I forget what the name of the place was. Anyway, they lived on a farm, my dad's family. And he delivered, I often asked Mama, how did you meet Pa and that? And at a dance or something, says, no, we didn't know anything about dances at that time, but he brought a load of hay to my folks, and she said, and that's how I met Dad. And I laughed, teased her, and I suppose you went to tramp the hay down for him. That's how you met. Well, anyway, they were married in Winona, and Mama's parents had to sign for the license because she was underage. She was 17, and you had to be 18.
How old was Julius?
And he was 10 years older than Mama.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. So then they buried the first baby in Winona, but then they had another baby, Frank, the oldest living brother, and he was only 3 months old when they came to Dakota Territory. So she was the young mother with a 3-month-old baby, and they came into this wilderness. And they came as far as the tracks went was to Fisher, Minnesota, but at that time it was called Fisher's Landing, you know, Fisher, Minnesota. And that's as far as the train went. So in those boxcars, they brought a team of oxen, a flat wagon, and 9 chickens, and a few sacks of wheat. I don't remember how many. And then their clothing, and of course piagina, you know, feather beds, keep them warm. And they came to Fisher's Landing, and they stayed overnight in the boxcar, and then the next morning they took off for Dakota here, wherever they had signed up for this land. And perfect, strange, you know, surroundings, everything. So their first home was in a riverbank. It's about, that riverbank. That place is about, I would say about 5.5 miles straight south of here.
Yeah, it's not far from where Grandpa's
No, not very far from
farm
the
was there.
home.
Yeah.
The home place.
Mhm.
So they
Now,
lived
now
in
they actually dug out a hole in the
a
riverbank?
sod house in the
Oh, they had-
riverbank. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And
So
they
they
lived in-
they dug out part of the bank,
Yeah.
and then they had sod
Uh-huh.
over the front and a
Yeah.
doorway, huh?
In a doorway. They had
Mm.
a blanket, no blanket for their door.
Did they have a shower in there or anything like that?
No. or a dishwasher, no way.
None of that stuff, huh?
No, that was hard living for a young girl to come
Yep.
into.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived mostly on fish and wildlife because Mama said that Papa shot a goose, a wild goose. He didn't shoot it dead. He injured the wings, so he just fluttered down into the marsh. So he came and asked Mama to go and help him find that goose. And she was praying that she wouldn't find it because she didn't know what it looked like. She didn't know what a goose looked like. And she hoped that she didn't walk into it, you know. But finally she didn't because Dad found it. Had an injured wing. But anyway, so that's the way that they lived before. 2.5 years in that sod house till Dad had enough trees cut down for logs, you know, to make a log house, first home.
Boy.
Yeah, and then after the log house, then they worked up enough money to build a regular house, you know.
How did you suppose they went about getting that money together?
I just don't know. Dad got, it was called a tree claim, 6 acres.
Yeah.
Planted trees. If he'd keep those trees clean, and that after 6 years, that was their own. You know, it was called a 6-acre tree claim. Well, anyway, so I don't know, but my dad must have been a very good manager because we really didn't want for anything. We had anything that come up for better ways of living, we had it. We were the first ones to get a telephone put in that
Really?
house. Yes. And then Papa got gasoline lights put in the house, fixtures, you know, ceiling. And
He was real progressive.
yes, and another thing was, I'll never forget, I was very, very young. Papa and my brother Leo went with a sleigh and horses to Grand Forks. And my folks had friends living in Grand Forks, so they stayed overnight there. And then the next day, Papa and my brother Leo came home, and behold, what he had covered with the horse blankets was a piano.
Oh,
He brought us a piano for Christmas. $500, that was a lot of money at that time. And the name of the piano was a Singer, S-I-N-G-E-R. I don't know if you still get a Singer.
$500.
Yep.
What year was that?
Well, I think I was only about 3 years old.
So what year would that have
And
been?
I'm 82, going on 83, so that would be 70-some years ago.
Yeah. So,
That was a lot of
well,
money.
that would have been about 1910.
Yeah, yeah, because we had the new home.
Yeah, 1910 or
I don't remember
1911.
anything. I was born in the old home. I don't remember anything of the old home.
Let's see, a brand new car in about that time would have cost about $240.
No, we were the first ones to get the Model T Ford. Harry Hewitt came from, he had his first Ford agency in Park River, and then he moved to Minto. And he delivered our first Ford car with the side curtains on it to the farm.
Wow.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the neighbors all have cars at that time?
No, very, very few. After that, a few did, but we were pretty much, I still remember those little narrow tires and then on the old cars.
Yeah, that's neat.
Anyway, when we had the Red River Farm during harvest time, then my sister Agnes and I cooked for the men at the Red River in the log cabin there. And we had to go to Oslo. That was about 4 miles from the Red River Farm to Oslo.
Yeah.
And we went there to get some provisions of some kind, and we were coming back, and on the road that turns off the main road from Oslo to the Red River Farm, there's a great big oak tree, and I don't know if that tree is still there or not. I haven't been there for a long time. Just as we were, Agnes was supposed to turn that corner to our log cabin there, the front wheel came off the car. And we left the car in the groceries there, and we walked to the cabin. Then when the men came off the field, you know, then they went up there and fixed it. I don't know whether they dragged the car in or fixed the wheel right there. I don't remember. I don't know. But anyway, that was something else.
Now, Effie, you're the baby of the family.
The baby of 15, kind of an old baby.
You're the tip of the tail. and then
I was the unwanted one because my mama was 49 years old when I was born.
wow. Wow, 49, huh? Isn't that something? And the
That's it.
15th child,
Yeah.
15th pregnancy. And then, and
No
you were
doctors.
you were born in the house.
Yeah.
Was there a midwife there?
God only knows. They did have midwives, so yes. I
Yeah.
know my mother even used to go and help some
Yeah.
baby deliveries to other
She should have
women.
been good at it by then.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Now Martin was what, the second? No, not the second youngest, right? Or was it
Youngest?
Steve?
No, there was me and Sophie and Steve and then Martin,
Okay.
the fourth from the youngest.
Uh-huh. And then Emma is.
Then it was Agnes and then Emma.
Oh yeah. Huh. Let's see. Emma is how old now?
Emma would be coming on 92.
Yeah.
Because 2 years ago, when I came back from Hawaii, I went into Los Angeles for Emma's 90th birthday, and that's
Yeah.
going to be 2 years now. Her
Hmm.
birthday is the 30th of June,
Mm.
so she'll be 92.
So and then so Martin and Frances moved into your home place.
Yeah, see, Emma and Martin had a double wedding
Okay.
in October. And so then Emma and Ed Gillespie moved to Minto, and he was working for the Watkins, or was a Raleigh, one or the other company. And Martin stayed on he got the home place to keep up.
Uh-huh.
And we moved to town here.
Okay. And so you moved to town with your folks.
Uh-huh. I was in the 6th grade here in our school here.
Oh yeah. So then how did Martin meet Frances then? What?
Oh, I suppose at dances. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Martin played for a band, right?
mhm.
Yeah. And
I imagine a dances.
so then you moved to town with your mom and dad, and then
1919.
now did they build this house first, or
No,
did they?
no, there was a big rambling house. It was called the Munley House. Here, it was on the same place here. It was a big rambling house. It had open porch to the south, to the west, and to the north with big pillars. It was a beautiful type of an old home, you know. But it didn't have hardwood floors like we had on the farm.
Yeah.
And it had a cement wall, and I mean the wall in the basement out of bricks, you know, and they started to crush, you know, crumble. And we had a nice basement on the farm, and Mama never did like the open porches and that. It just wasn't homey for her. She didn't like it, from moving from a beautiful home to the farm. So Papa died in February 22nd on Washington's birthday in 1925. And then the following spring, Martin and Mama got help from two of her son-in-law, Anton Miller and who else was it? I forgot. They came and they took the old house down, and the house across the street was empty that summer. So my mother and I carried all our stuff, just about all our stuff. We carried everything into the house across the road, across the street. Well, they took the old house down, but they saved a lot of the better lumber. The whole frame of the house was from the old lumber from the old house. And so then on July 4th in 1926, we moved into the house here. Into 27, because I graduated in 26, and it was the following year after that we moved here into the house.
So your mother at that time would have been, let's see, you graduated when you were 18,
Uh-huh,
and she was 49 when you were born.
yeah.
So 18 onto that, be 67 years old, and you moved into this house as a brand new house. Really nicely designed. I noticed. Now in your bedroom upstairs, you have a walk-in closet.
Oh, we have 4. Each bedroom has a big closet.
Each bedroom has a big closet.
Uh-huh.
And all the staircase and all of the trim and everything is all solid wood.
Yeah, everything is the way it was built.
Nice big plank wood. And beautiful porch out there. Beautiful in the summertime. And then a little veranda off the bedroom upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a nice home.
Well, so you know what this home cost after, of course we used the lumber for well, my brother Steve and I picked out the the blueprints for this house.
Oh,
Yeah, because we had 7 blueprints sent to us. But all the other houses wouldn't do justice. This is too big of an area for a flat home,
yeah.
you know. And so then this was the plan that we picked out that looked the best in this area. And so that's what they went by. The carpenter lived just across the river here, Old Gillespie, I guess. And so that's the way what he went by. So it was sturdily built.
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful home.
Yeah.
48 windows in the house, you say?
Yeah, I got 48 windows,
Oh.
11 in the front porch alone.
Oh, what a job.
Yeah, I know, but I don't mind it. Now this spring I had a chance to get Jim Walski's Mitchell. He went to the seminary and he just didn't stay after he finished his college education. He felt that he, I guess, didn't have a calling enough to become a priest. So he was home then. He signed up to get a job at the Air Base. But he came home here from Fargo and he had 10 days. And he said, I don't know what I'm going to do with my time. He always used to come and visit me since he was a little boy. He always liked to come and visit me. And I said, so what are you going to do now? That was in April. And I said, so what are you going to do now for the next 10 days? And he says, I don't know. He says, maybe I could find a job somewhere to spend some time and earn a few dollars. And I says, you really want a job? And he said, I sure do. I says, okay, you're hired. If you want to work for me for $8 an hour, I says, start tomorrow. And he said, doing what? And I said, I want the whole inside of my house painted. Upstairs, clothes closets, everything. He said, it's a deal. And we shook hands on that. This was on a Thursday afternoon. I said, okay, you meet me at the super service. I like to deal at home. I said, you meet me at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning at super service, and we'll get the paint, and you get your brushes, and you go to work. So that's what he did. He put in 40 hours, and he did the whole thing. He didn't only paint, but he checked all my outlets in the house, and he hung up all the pictures back again, and just any little thing that was to be done, he did besides painting, you know.
When do you recall meeting the Kudrowskis for the first time in their store in Warsaw?
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't remember. I know the store. See, my sister Phil and Mike Stupek had that store, you know.
Oh, I
Did
didn't
you know that?
No.
They had the store before Kudrowski's had it. Babinski's had the store, and then Mike and Phyllis Stupek bought that store for $700 in Warsaw. He worked for the toll mill here in Minto, and then he wanted something better. So they moved to Warsaw. They lived upstairs, you know, where many of them.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to go to the sister school in Warsaw. Not the convent, but the sisters taught in the public school in Warsaw. So I went there in the 5th grade because I stayed with Phil and Mike in Warsaw. And then when we moved here to town, then I started the 6th grade in Minto. But, oh yes, we made quite a few steps up that store up there, living quarters in that old store.
When do you recall that Joe and Minnie bought that store?
What's that?
When did you recall that Joe and Minnie bought that store?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I guess as long as I remember they had it. And
Yeah, because then Mike and Phila rented a farm, and they lived on the farm. So I just don't remember what year that would have been. I just don't know. Just can't recall. Well, I'll tell you what, because I was in the 5th grade, so I must have been how old?
that would be about 11.
I could have been about 11, 12 years old.
Yeah. Now, Steve Riske was named after your brother, Steve, right? And then Henry was named after Grandma's brother,
Stoltman.
Henry.
Henry Stoltman.
Henry Stoltman.
Uh-huh.
And then,
You were named after Grandpa Martin.
yeah, and then my middle name is from Mom's dad.
Yeah.
And then,
And your son was John.
yeah, he's named after his
Mama.
grandpa Deesh,
Yeah.
and then my middle name.
Yeah.
So, but what about, now, Regina was named after,
Grandma Stoltman.
okay, Grandma.
Or
Oh, Grandma Frances's mother's
Mother.
name, yeah, okay. And then Irene was named after,
We didn't have an Irene in our family.
must have been in
Maybe
Grandma's
the
family.
Ibertuskis or the Stoltmans, maybe.
Yeah. So, let's see, Grandma's mother was an Ibertusky? And then how would that be related to?
And Grandma's grandpa was John Stoltman.
Yes.
So you
Oh,
have
yeah.
a boy by the name
Yep.
of John.
Mm-hmm.
But to tell you the truth, there's nobody named after me because they had to really go down to the barrel, the bottom of the barrel to find a name for me. After 15 kids, they just didn't know.
Yeah, they went through a lot of names.
You bet they
15 of them. Isn't that incredible?
Frank, John, Joe, Leo, Martin, Stephen, and Stella, Susie, Phila, Emma, Agnes, and me. And then the ones that are dead was Julius and Robert and Sophie.
That's a
I
lot.
was the loner because, see, my pal died. See, Sophie was 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
And between me and Steve, there was 4 years difference, you
Yeah.
know. So I was always hanging on to my mother's skirt
How did Sophie die?
with whooping cough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and my other 2 little brothers, I just don't know. I don't know. They died in infancy.
Yeah.
Sophie was 3 months old, by the way, when she died.
There were a lot of infant deaths then
there
in
were,
those days.
Yeah. Like I say, there was no vaccinations, no nothing, you know. Yeah, it was tough, all right. Yeah. When my mother lived in her homeland in Czechoslovakia, she always told us, because I used to trim her toenails, and a big toe on her left foot had no bone in it. She was talking about infections. They were grazing geese. You know, the people in Czechoslovakia and up in those countries there, they were great for raising geese somehow or another. I don't know why, but they used to graze the geese along a little lake or stream or something, and my mother stepped on a shell, and she injured the bone in her big toe in the left leg, and it just went away, you know, just disintegrated, you know. Never went to a doctor with it, nothing.
Now, your mother lived to be how old?
She was 93 in August, and she died the following October.
And she just died at home here with...
Yeah, at home upstairs here.
One day she just went away.
Yeah, she died on Rosemary's birthday, 18th of October. No, she wasn't really sick. One morning, because she had her room upstairs because it was close to the bathroom, and she didn't want the downstairs bedroom because she didn't want to interfere with our daily routine here. And one morning, she was always downstairs around 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd have her oatmeal cooked for her, you know, and that. And this morning it was after 9 and Mother wasn't coming down, so I went halfway up the steps and I said, "Mama, what's the matter? Aren't you getting up?" And she said, and she was in the bathroom, and she said, "Come here, I had I don't know if she said bad luck or accident." And I said, "What happened?" I came upstairs, and she got a loose bowel. And she got from her bed to the bathroom, and she had a loose bowel. And she got so weak, so I said, "Well, don't let that bother you. I can clean it up, don't worry." And she was making excuses. That was too bad it happened, and this and that. And so I helped her back to the bedroom. I washed her up in the bathroom. I didn't put her in the bathtub because I didn't think I could get her back out, you know, because she was just limp. So I washed her up the best I could in the bathroom. I led her to the bed. And I said, "I'll bring your breakfast here. You stay in bed and I'll bring you breakfast." So I brought her cup. She was great for coffee. So I brought her a cup of coffee and her piece of toast and oatmeal. But she only took a couple of bites of the toast, and I don't even think she started on the oatmeal at all. And I says, "I'll call the doctor." He said, "No, no, no. Mama's saying always used to be, I'll be all right, I'll be all right." So I didn't. So then at noon, I went upstairs to check on her again to see if she wanted to get up to come and have some dinner. And no, she said she was going to stay in bed. So I thought, oh, there must be something wrong. So I called up Dr. Hardy, our local doctor, and he came over at noon right away, and he examined her, and he said, oh, this I see trouble. He said her feet are swelling. Both feet were swelling very bad. And he said, I could give her some shots, but I really don't think it's any to no avail, because he said, she's got fluid building up in her system. He said it's bound to creep up to her heart, but he said no pain and no use giving her shots. But he said, I'll come again. And you know, he was so wonderful. He came 3-4 times a day. Well, then at night, I called up the family and I said, Mommy is in bed, and I don't want to get her up because her feet are swelling. I just want to let you know. So they all came up. So this was on a Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, no, Tuesday, because then Thursday night, then she lost her eyesight, and I never left her alone at all. I always had somebody stay upstairs with her. She couldn't see me. Every move I made, and whatever side of the room I went, she was making the sign of a cross to me, you know. And it was 8 o'clock that Thursday evening, and she started to have sneezes. She was sneezing, one sneeze right after another. And Phyllis Stupek came to stay with her overnight, and she just tilted her head on the pillow, and that was it. She had an easy death.
Mm-hmm. What year was that?
1950.
So she was born in 1857? She was 93, right?
Yeah, 93.
She was born in 1857 in Czechoslovakia.
Mm-hmm.
Where was, what country did Julius immigrate from?
My dad?
Yeah.
He was born in Prussia. It was Russia, or Prussia, somehow anyway. It was taken over by the Germans then.
Yeah, Prussia.
Prussia, yeah. And Papa was 11 years old when his family moved to Wisconsin from there.
I'm going to put this. Just a little bit about Julius's fur trading.
Okay, Julius, his parents were in fishing business, and that's what drove them out of Winona, because the men were fishing nights and then sleeping in the daytime, you know, or selling their fish and that. And that's why my mother was anxious to get out of Winona. That's how my dad was a fisherman from a wee small boy.
That's why he liked to live by rivers.
Yes, that's why he bought this place for $300, because this house. He bought this place for $300 because it was near the river.
Yeah, and the home place was by a river.
Yeah, he was dealing on another place that was for sale, and that was by the elevators there. But that was a difference of $200. That one was $500, that whole house and yard, and that was $300, but he liked this better because it was by the river. But he had a lot of pelts, fur pelts, that he trapped, and my mother helped him pack them in a gunny sack or sack of some kind, and then put him on his back, tied him on his back, and he walked by foot way up 31 miles, I remember, he said, to the fur trading place by Drake. And there was one pelt that they didn't want to put in the sack at all because it didn't have a good color. It was kind of a grayish-brown color. And Mama said, well, you can find one place for one more pelt. So they stuck it in the sack too. So she helped him hang it on his back, and he went by foot to the fur traders to sell his wares. And you know, that was a silver fox. He got more for that one pelt than he did for that sack full of the others.
Wow.
He got $30-some for that silver fox. Imagine.
So he, in the wintertime, he trapped furs?
Oh yes, he was trapping and fishing. Yeah,
And then in the summertime, he farmed?
Yeah, yeah.
He was an industrious fella.
Oh yeah, he was, yeah. Yeah, he was. And anything that was going on in the court where they had trials, you know, and everything, my dad was always called as to work on the
Jury
duty. Dad was on jury duty, you know, because he could speak good English.
Yeah.
So he was called on jury duty a lot. Yeah.
Now, Martin didn't go to much school, did he?
I think Martin went to maybe about 5th or 6th grade.
Sometimes he would say that only second or third.
Yeah, maybe third. No, I think he went a little further than that. I really don't know.
But then
They didn't have much schooling, none of them, because they had to work.
yeah, so he just worked on the farm and
Oh, yes, worked on the farm. And on the farm, there was work all year round. It isn't like now, people had cattle. Now, my dad always had 5 or 6 sheep. And then Mother had her own spinning wheel, and she spun the yarn, I should say spun yarn, and then she knit all the men's socks and mitts, you know, for
Yeah.
work, for winter. But there was work all year round on the farm, because
well, you had
there was,
milk cows and
yeah, there was horses and cattle and pigs, and like we had always 5 or 6 sheep and chickens. And I remember I was 4 years old, and all our family, everybody went to the Red River Farm to work harvest time, and I was left alone at home with Mama to milk the cows. Well, anyway, I had a broken hand because my brother Leo was always such a meanie to me. He was foolish, you know, I mean, but he always tried to tease me. And he was coming with the binder towards the yard, and I had a gallon syrup pail with water and ice to take out to the field to him. And would like to always go, because then he gave me a ride on that little platform, you know, in back of the drill, up the field and back. And he teased me, so he made the horses go fast, so I'd have to run with that pail of water to him. And I tripped on the stubble and I broke my arm, my hand. Well, anyway, that fall then, the folks went to Red River Farm to do harvest. And I stayed alone with Mama to help her milk cows, and I had a little old Bessie cow, I called her, and I used to milk her. That was my cow. But only with one hand, because my other hand was on a sling. Well, then that one morning we got up, it was in the fall of the year, and the yard was full of white chicken feathers. And a bunch of dogs came in through the night, and they killed a lot of chickens. Some of them were still living. They were just injured, a broken wing or something. So some of them chickens were alive yet, so Mother chopped their heads off, and we saved them, you know, but some of them were all chewed up. So there I was with my hand in the sling, and I knelt on the leg of the chicken, and I was cleaning and helping my mother clean those chickens. I remember that like it was yesterday.
wow,
Yeah?
what a life,
Before
huh?
dogs used to gang up together, you know, and
Yeah.
then they'd go on a farm where there was poultry. Oh yeah, there's a lot of days to remember, a lot of things. A lot of things to remember. Then when your dad went to the Red River Farm to seed in the spring of the year, I went with him to bring out his lunch and cook his supper.
With Grandpa, you mean?
I was more than about 8 years old.
With Grandpa, you mean? Grandpa
He was
Martin?
seeding. He was on the
Yeah.
drill seeding
Okay.
at the Red River Farm.
Yeah.
And I would also get a ride with him up and down the field. And there was these little tubes where the grain would come through for seeding, you know,
Yeah.
with a little rickamajig in there to separate the grain as it was going down. And I was inquisitive what that was, so I stuck my finger in there, and he cut the whole tip of my finger off, the bone and all.
Wow.
And I jumped off the drill, and I held my hand like that, and I ran. I didn't tell Martin what happened, so he knew something happened. So we stopped when he came to the end of the field, and the basin was full of blood and that, so we unhitched the horses. Drove me from the Red River Farm to the farm home, our home place uptown. And until the next morning, my dad drove me in a horse and buggy to Dr. Evans to Minto. I didn't get no infection. Isn't that something?
Yeah, lucky.
Kid, no, I have no bone in that end of it. It got planted on the field.
And there's Julius and Rosalie Riske.
Yeah.
This shot was taken what year would that have been?
That was taken in, God, what year was that taken?
And this is
1910.
this is the whole living family.
Yeah,
That's
the living family. It was
that's,
1910.
Effie in the middle there. She's the
Yeah.
youngest one.
Yeah, that was the year we moved down to the new home on the farm.
And Grandpa Riske, Martin Riske, is on the upper left, all the way to the left on the back row.
And Steve is in the front. And Martin. Next one is Leo. Joe and Frank